July 3rd, 1941. The chime rings out from the Kremlin, heralding Radio Moscow and signaling that Stalin is about to make a speech, which will be relayed by mandatory loudspeakers throughout the country's public squares. It has taken Stalin 10 days to admit that the Red Army is threatened by the Germans. The worried Soviet people finally hear his voice and his gravelly Caucasian accent. Serafina Panisenko, a young nurse, is in the crowd. She recalls this terrible moment. Everyone around me was crying. What struck me was that people were crossing themselves. They were praying. But we were taught at school that God doesn't exist. Stalin, the new God, persecutor of the church, was educated in a seminary. Thanks to a scholarship, he entered the seminary in 1894 at 16. His exceptional memory and his singing voice had been singled out. A seminary education was the wish of Ekaterina, his mother. Despite being a pious woman, she beat him as often as his father did. Stalin has always preferred to forget his family and hide them away. Once he's in power, he returns to his childhood home and, like any dutiful son, he visits his mother. She asks him what he does now, and Stalin replies, "Do you remember the Tsar? Well, I've become a sort of Tsar." She replies, "You would have been better off becoming a priest." His mother didn't want him to stay in their village and become a cobbler like his father had hoped. Sending him away to the seminary was her choice. She wants him to become a bishop, and Stalin, who speaks only Georgian, is about to learn Russian, Greek, and arithmetic. He is still a teenager who writes poems like this one. The lark, singing its chirping hymn, soars high above the clouds. Meanwhile, the nightingale intones with sweet, mellifluous sounds. Stalin loses his faith while he is a student at the Tiflis Seminary. In this breeding ground for revolutionaries, with the help of the mean, filthy Orthodox priests and their alcoholic guard, he learns techniques of repression. Stalin lists them himself: surveillance, spying, invasion of one's inner life, violation of one's feelings. But he also learns the virtues of silence. To Stalin, there is always more to gain from listening than speaking. Never reveal your feelings. Never betray yourself. In 1898, he's 20. He is changed. He provokes the authorities. He refuses to cut his hair. He lets his beard grow out. He reads forbidden books by Zola or Victor Hugo, which speak out against social injustice. He is expelled from the seminary. He adopts his first nickname, Koba, the name of a Robin Hood of the Caucasus. He pictures himself as a gang leader. In 1901, he joins the underground Social Democrat Party in Tiflis and is immediately spotted by the Tsar's secret police, the Okhrana. He works for a few months at the Meteorological Observatory. This leaves him enough time to read the works of the German Karl Marx, who along with Friedrich Engels had written the Communist Manifesto in 1847. This text called for the end of private property and capitalism, exhorting the workers of the world to unite and join together in armed revolution. Marx decries the exploitation of man by man and the misery of the proletariat that, according to him, has nothing to lose but its chains. Stalin's naive paintings show the future dictator as a Marxist indoctrinating workers. He asks them, "Why don't we have any political rights? How can we change our existence?" He believes that the Russian Empire of the 20th century is a feudal society that must be destroyed. Some rare footage of the carefree members of the imperial family filming themselves to show their English cousins that they too know how to play tennis, and that they are brave enough to dive into the icy waters of Lake Ladoga near the palace in St. Petersburg. A new working class emerges as Russia becomes industrialized. Particularly in the Caucasus, Baku's oil wells and refineries make a few elite wealthy and incite the exploited to rise up. Their revolutionary song is La Marseillaise in Russian with different words. At 23, Josef Zhugashvili is sent to Baku by the socialists to organize protests and forbidden strikes, confirming his calling as a leader. He is impassioned by the writings of Nechayev, a 19th century Russian revolutionary, in particular, Catechism of a Revolutionary. The revolutionary has no personal interests, feelings, not even a name. He has cut all ties with law and moral. He is a remorseless enemy of the civilized world, which he only lives in to destroy. All inner feelings of friendship, gratitude, and honor must be stifled by the single revolutionary passion. Josef Zhugashvili, a revolutionary agitator, is arrested on April 5, 1902. His police record reads, height 1.62 meters, brown hair, average build, age 24. He will later say that Tsar's prisons are like rest homes. Indeed, the discipline and treatment of prisoners is a far cry from Stalin's future methods, a different level of cruelty. He lives in this cell for one whole year. He spends his time reading various works, like What is to be Done, the revolutionary's instruction manual penned by Lenin. The author of this pamphlet is Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov, a Russian Marxist in exile who goes by the name of Lenin, a pseudonym alluding to the Lena, the great Siberian river. Lenin will soon become the leader of the revolution. 50 years later, his statue is the first to be pulled down by the Germans.